Well, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Let's get this over with. I think it's safe to say that 2022 completely sucked for movies. A lot of the anticipated movies disappointed the heck out of me. Disney pretty much cracked the bed, and it seems like most of the mediocre stuff Hollywood has put out makes more money than some of the great indie films nobody has ever heard of. And even then, some of the indie films fell short. Now, before I get to my list, here are some dishonorable mentions. Jurassic World Dominion. Oh look, dinosaurs roaming around. Oh look, the original 3 actors. Dotson, we got Dotson here. Nobody cares, your movie sucked. Amsterdam. So this is a comeback you've been hyping up, eh, David O. Russell? Well, it doesn't matter, your movie was such a mess. Alex Garland's Men. A24, the director of Ex Machina, and an intriguing premise involving this creepy house. What could go wrong? Well, pretty much everything according to this movie. Beasts. Just Idris Elba and his stars hanging out in Africa. Oh, and there's some crappy CG lions roaming around, I guess. Where the crawdads sing? What if you took that mean-spirited Loud House episode No Such Luck and made it into a shitty courtroom romance film? And then have Lincoln do the Lynn what Chief did to Jack Nicholson at the end of Cuckoo's Nest. And After Ever Happy. You know, I could easily put this in the top 10, maybe even top 5. But at this point, I expected garbage and I got just that. I mean, it's better than some of the other ones, but that's like saying it's a bad diaper change you had to take care of all week than some of the other ones you did. And somehow these next 10 movies are even worse. Kill me. My number 10 is a movie that I didn't think in a million years would make it on the list, and that is The Gray Man by the Russo brothers. Like, who even remembers this movie? I barely do. What I do remember is that they spent $200 million to get the Russo brothers on board and get this A-list cast. And that's all the money went to because everything else looked cheap as hell. Could've spent that kind of money to fight this year's gas prices. Number 9 is the conclusion to a franchise that I may know a thing or two about. Probably. Hotel Transylvania 4 Transformania. This is pretty much what everyone expected this to be when they saw the trailer for the first movie back in 2012. Yet this is somehow even worse than that due to the fact that this comes from 2 movies that are pretty good, and the third one that was okay but is a masterpiece and a half compared to this mess. I mean, the characters have to learn the same lessons as the first movie, the writing's not nearly as good as before, everything about this movie is wrong, and a movie with this kind of story could have worked if they just had a better script. Can we all just agree that my fan sequel I did this year is a more worthy successor? Please? My number 8 is a movie by this director that's made some of the greatest comedies in the last 20 years. Let's just hope this is just a fluke. Judd Apatow's The Bubble. Now the thing about his previous movies is, they had this great balance between gross out humor and smart and relatable characters and writing. Here it's just gross out humor for the sake of it, just with all these actors who I know can be funny but are just not in this. Please do better, Judd Apatow. Never do a movie like this again. My number 7 is a movie that I completely forgot about, and that is Blacklight. Liam Neeson plays the same old secret agent guy he's played 100 times recently, and even he's wandering around this movie wondering what the hell he's doing in this movie. You know what, since I forgot about this movie, I want to use this time to talk about a similar movie this year, Memory. Now, this one gets a lot of bad rap, but I think you should give this one a chance. I felt they perfectly implemented Liam Neeson's old days in this story that's engaging and somewhat emotional. It's almost like Martin Campbell saw this guy getting too old for this shit and made a movie around it. But hey, that's just a theory. Coming in at number 6 is Don't Worry Darling. This movie tried to be Stepford Wives for a new generation, yet I took it just as seriously as, well, the remake of Stepford Wives. Just Harry Styles doing his Tommy Wiseau impression in this Oscar bait film that was as boring and confusing as it gets. Just goes to show that all that behind the scenes drama actually describes what it's like to be involved in this mess. And now we get to my 5 seals of raids. Here we go. Number 5 is further proof that Roland Emmerich needs to retire, and that is Moonfall. Look, it was already bad enough that he had to claim that Marvel and Star Wars have ruined the film industry, which is far from the truth, but going as far as to make the same movie as Independence Day over and over and over again for the past 25 years, just stop, okay? Your lust for worldwide destruction isn't fun anymore. Your days are numbered. Just stop. My number 4 is The 355. It's a January action movie. Next! Now before any of you memers come at me at this next one, I just want to say that I'm a complete Morbhead. The Morbin time memes are the greatest. I just did a Morbius meme the other day, so I can safely say I love Morbius. That is to say, I love Morbius the meme, Morbius the movie? No. This movie just feels like Sony trying to make the next Marvel Cinematic Universe without making it what made the Marvel Cinematic Universe such an icon. All this just seems rushed, from the story, to the characters, to the effects, to even the end credit scene, which was complete nonsense, so I can objectively say that this was such a huge waste of my Morbin time. Number 2 is a movie that I'm sure most of you have never even heard of, and that is Summering. This movie tried to be a coming-of-age drama about these kids coming to terms at the end of summer break, but the problem is that the story and tone doesn't even know what it wants to be. A coming-of-age film, a ghost film, a mystery film. None of the characters do anything that's realistic, interesting, or unique, and it all leads up to an ending where all you learn is that the whole movie was about nothing. And if there's one thing that's worse than trying too hard, is trying very little to the point that you just wasted an hour and a half of your precious time. And my number 1 worst film of 2022 is a movie that encapsulates everything wrong with Hollywood nowadays. And what better movie to encapsulate that than Disenchanted? Now, I'm not saying the original Enchanted from 2007 was sacred ground or anything, but the least you could do with this one is make it worth a successor. But instead, you just made the very thing the original swore to destroy. The original was meant to be a satire of old Disney cliches and the things that might make people sway away from these fairy tale movies, and this one's just a shitty fairy tale movie. The writing's a complete joke, the effects are even worse. Amy Adams, of all people, is awful in this, like straight up cartoonist, but she's nothing compared to the villain of this movie played by Maya Rudolph. She was an awful villain. Even Alan Menken's phoned it in with his music. Like, there was not one good song that I hummed to, enjoyed listening to, or even tolerated. And what's even worse is that the then CEO of Disney, Bob Chapek, pretty much defends the low effort Disney's been putting out recently by basically saying that animation isn't worth putting the effort towards. That the only reason why adults watch animated movies is to put their kids to bed. That adults want something for them, when reality couldn't be far from the truth. Animated films have left an impact on adults like myself, and you can clearly say that from all the analysis videos on YouTube, fan art, fan fictions, cosplay, and even putting some of your films in the best of the year list, even about some of the live action films made for adults. So Bob Chapek, to paraphrase Chris Duckman, what you're saying is, you don't respect your audience. That's why your movie sucks ass, because you don't respect your audience. If you want to make a movie, respect your freaking audience, man. Then you'll make a good movie. If you don't, it's gonna suck. And Disenchanted did just that. And that's precisely why Disenchanted is hands down the worst film of the year, because it is a summation of everything wrong with Disney and Hollywood as a whole. And those were the worst films I've seen this year. I'm sure there's more like Redeeming Love or that Cheaper by the Dozen remake reboot thingy, but I don't want to see them. And I will see some movies that have gotten a more mixed reception, like Bardo or Babylon, but I doubt they'll be nearly as bad as some of the aforementioned movies. Because if they are, I would have watched this video for nothing.